Chapter 877. The last seal had been unlocked. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. She had not expected that the forbidden blood art, which exhausted her own blood, was merely an elementary forbidden art. As expected of the dark faction. Even when they used their forbidden arts, they were still so cruel. Yiqing Luo did not have the slightest bit of sympathy towards Guardian Eagle, who was still alive. It was just a dog biting dog. Now, what attracted Yiqing Luo's attention was whether there would be more dangerous things after the seal was unlocked. 10 over pillars were constantly stacked together in the main hall. Guardian Eagle's body, which was still alive, under the constant collisions, more blood seeped out. He was hanging there but couldn't swallow it no matter what. Although Elder Xiong had lost a lot of blood, his strength was still there. He nimbly avoided those 10 over pillars as he grinned sinisterly at the opening of the seal. After the 10 over pillars were stacked together, the entire main hall shook and swayed incessantly. It seemed as though the surroundings had started to distort. After some time, the pillars stopped moving. The shaking of the space also gradually subsided. Between the 10 over pillars and the blood print on the wall, gradually, the red light flickered and revealed a circle of red light. That red light formed an entrance which could accommodate one person, sticking closely to the wall which was covered with blood. Vaguely, a palm-sized outline could be seen in the red light. It was the entrance to the last seal being opened. Haha. Old Eagle, don't worry, I will send the divine relic to His Highness safely and tell His Highness that you have sacrificed your life for the divine relic. Elder Xiong grinned sinisterly as he took a step forward and headed towards that red light. Yiqing Luo was about to make a move. But her shoulder was pressed down by Dmo Xian's huge palm. Immediately, that purple robe had already leapt into the main hall. Like an exiled immortal, elegant like an immortal. Jumping straight to Elder Xiong's back, his palm flipped and casually slapped him towards the side of Guardian Eagle's body, which was still breathing. Immediately, his body was like lightning as he dashed towards the red light. The red light was like a blooming permetha flower, spreading a large amount of blood. Several bolts of red lightning struck as though it was going to swallow Dmo Xian completely. That is. Elder Xiong fell heavily onto the ground and wanted to get up. A mouthful of blood gushed up his head as he fell weakly beside Guardian Eagle. His eyes widened as he looked in disbelief at the purple figure which was moving swiftly in the red lightning. Ha. Serves you right, you're still alive. Protector Ing laughed with great difficulty. He who had lost his heart could feel his life force continuously disappearing. However, to be able to see Elder Xiong end up like this before he breathed his last, he felt extremely happy in his heart. What are you laughing at? I will bring the divine relic back. At least our souls will be preserved and you will still have a chance to reincarnate. But now, our souls will all become food for the Lord. Elder Xiong gritted his teeth and glared at Enforcer Ing. His duty was to cast spells and incantations. He was not good at using profound qi or attacking. Otherwise, the Lord would not have sent Protector Ing to escort him all the way to the Ling King's tomb. If they were to fight head-on, Elder Xiong knew that he would definitely not be a match for that purple-robed man. So what if my soul is destroyed? Guardian Eagle's face was contorted from the pain, but he felt the pleasure of revenge. I am alone, it doesn't matter if I die. But you who failed the mission, your family. What kind of cruel persecution will they suffer? You. Elder Xiong's chest tightened as blood spurted out of his mouth. On the verge of death, you can still bicker so leisurely. People from the dark forces are really tenacious. Chapter 878. The two of them widened their eyes in astonishment. A slender figure entered their eyes. The young lady was dressed in a black outfit, her ink-black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. The lady had a devastatingly beautiful face. Her skin was smooth like jade, sparkling and translucent. Especially that pair of long and bewitching eyes, were flowing with a glistening luster. This peerlessly beautiful face, the corners of her lips curled into a cruel and bloodthirsty cold smile. That piercingly cold aura caused one's heart to tremble with just a glance. She slowly stood in front of them, her back leaning against the red light. The red cherry blossom embroidered on her arm was like a flame, jumping in joy. Like a devil from hell. Her looks were peerlessly beautiful but like a venomous devil. You. Guardian Ing was so shocked that his pierced heart shrank, as large amounts of fresh blood gushed out from his heart. As expected. As expected, you were summoned here. Elder Xiong pointed at Yiqing Luo in astonishment, finally seeing that girl who only appeared in the Lord's mouth. It was fated in the unseen world. Heaven's will indeed couldn't be defied. Yiqing Luo was expressionless as she looked at the both of them indifferently, using my profound jade heart to open the seal and wishful thinking of obtaining the god relic? You know about it? Elder Xiong shuddered as his throat turned dry. Even if you know it's useless. This god relic based on your strength, you have no way to control it. Yiqing Luo scoffed as her lips curled into a cruel arc as it became thicker. Even if I can't control it, I won't let you get it. The two of them turned pale. They didn't even have the chance to move, not to mention resist. At this moment, Elder Xiong was extremely regretful. Why did he dig out Guardian Ying's heart? If Guardian Ying still had the strength to fight, they would definitely be fine. If we are unable to complete the mission, our souls will scatter and become the food of that lord, right? Yiqing Luo touched her chin as she asked in a relaxed tone. The two of them didn't reply. Yiqing Luo continued on her own. After we leave the Ling King's tomb, I will spread the news of the both of you helping me to open the seal, allowing me to obtain the god relic. I believe. Even if you're dead, your lord will find you. You're so ruthless. His lordship was their only weakness. The one who was the most afraid was the Lord. They could never imagine that such cold and heartless words would come from the mouth of such a devastatingly beautiful young girl. At this moment they finally understood. Why did his lord regard a 15-year-old girl as the only obstacle? Yiqing Luo slowly stood up. The smile on her face shot out a strong murderous intent. Ruthless? Not as good as you guys. As she spoke, her slender fingers trembled slightly. A red feather fan slid into his palm. Chapter 879. Not you. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes. Right. Not me. My mission is to follow Guardian Ying into the main tomb to open the seal and retrieve the god relic. It's really not me. Elder Xiong saw that he had a chance to convince Yiqing Luo and immediately revealed his background. Not Elder Xiong. The ones who had reached the Ling King's tomb first should be Guardian Ying and Elder Xiong. Shangguan Liuli absolutely didn't have the ability to inject profound yin qi. Could it be? Ling King's tomb had a fourth dark force's existence? Other than you, who else entered the Ling King's tomb? Who on earth is controlling Ajan? Yiqing Luo quickly walked to the side of the simple array formed by the silver threads as she stared sharply at him. Elder Xiong shuddered as he stammered, You let me go and I'll tell you, your group leader. You want to discuss terms with me? Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly as a chilly intent flashed past her eyes. Elder Xiong, don't forget that you have a family. Yes. Elder Xiong had a family and he valued his own family very much. Otherwise he wouldn't have taken away Guardian Ying's heart in order to survive. Elder Xiong understood the threat in Yiqing Luo's words. As long as she left the Ling King's tomb, outsiders would say that he was in cahoots with them. The Lord would absolutely not let his soul off, and even his wife and son would die without a burial ground. Your group leader's profound yin qi wasn't injected into his body, but. Elder Xiong weighed the pros and cons as he trembled and was about to say it out. Guardian Ying, who was by his side, suddenly cried out miserably, interrupting Elder Xiong's words. Glancing sideways, Elder Xiong's face instantly turned pale like a sheet of paper. On top of that silver hairpin, densely packed worms suddenly crawled out. In an instant they crawled all over Guardian Ying's body. Especially after these worms smelt the blood gushing out from Guardian Ying's heart, they crazily drilled into the hole on Guardian Ying's chest. The densely packed worms devoured Guardian Ying. The crucial point was, Guardian Ying still had his own consciousness. He could clearly feel thousands of worms gushing into his body, constantly gnawing on his flesh. He opened his mouth wide and howled in pain. Elder Xiong felt his scalp prickling. He kept moving to the side, trying to escape from this place. But the simple array which Yiqing Luo had set up had intercepted Elder Xiong. Speak. Ajan's profound yin qi, what's going on? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as she silently cursed those bugs for spoiling her plans. At this moment, Elder Xiong had no intention of speaking at all. When he saw Protector Ying being devoured by the huge wave of insects, He immediately went berserk. However, in the blink of an eye, those bugs attacked Elder Xiong again. In an instant, only a pile of clothes was left of the two living people. The thousands upon thousands of bugs were still moving non-stop. One by one, they filled the air and climbed up the spirit formation. She wasn't able to get any information out of Elder Xiong, but Yiqing Luo managed to get a piece of news. There were still people from the dark forces in the Ling King's tomb. That person was hiding in the dark and controlling Long Yunzhan. Right now there was still an unknown corpse king outside, a Long Yunzhan who made people feel helpless. She and Zhou Xian weren't outside and she didn't know if her brothers could handle it. She must get the god relic as soon as possible and return to her brother's side with Zhou Xian. Yiqing Luo waved the feather fan in her hand and that silver hairpin which was being pressed down by the worms started to move. It shook slightly. Chapter 880. These bugs were the bugs which Yiqing Luo had brought out from Death God Castle. At that time he gave the silver hairpin to Baiming Lianqing. Who would have thought that Baiming Lianqing would actually tame these insects and turn them into his secret weapon? Before entering the tomb of the Ling King, Baiming Lianqing specially handed the silver hairpin to her and gave her a bottle of ointment that could control insects. It really came in handy. After thousands of bugs had crawled into the silver hairpin, Yiqing Luo hooked her feather fan. He put the silver hairpin back into his palm. Keeping the silver hairpin properly, Yiqing Luo's gaze looked towards the place where there were only 2 sets of clothes left and fell into deep thoughts. Elder Xiong's words couldn't possibly be false. The profound Yin energy on Long Yunzhan's body should have been tainted after entering the tomb of the Ling King. Before that she hadn't sensed the slightest trace of profound Yin energy from Long Yunzhan's body. Moreover, Long Yunzhan's attitude was completely normal. In that case, when exactly did he get infected with the mysterious Yin Qi? Who was the 4th person from the dark organization hiding in the dark? No, that's not right. Elder Xiong seemed to have said something before he died. The profound Yin energy in Long Yunzhan's body wasn't injected. But what? Other than the dark forces' forbidden arts, what other methods were there to inject profound Yin energy into a profound practitioner's body? Was there a way to expel the mystical Yin Qi that had not been injected into the body? Countless questions, wave after wave, battered his mind. Suddenly an urgent voice sounded in her mind. Lass. Now is not the time to think about other things. Your little lover is risking his life for you and you still have the mood to think about him? It was old Song. Yiqing Luo immediately looked towards the direction of the sound. The purple-robed man was constantly moving through the lightning bolts. It was as if the slightest bit of carelessness would cause them to be completely devoured by those lightning bolts. After unlocking the last seal, the artifact will also sense an intruder's attack and activate its self-protection energy. Old Man Song explained, "It's precisely because your little lover knows this that she stopped you from going immediately. Protect energy? Self-protection of divine artifacts?" Yiqing Luo looked around in astonishment at the lightning which kept chasing after Zhou Xian and her heart instantly tightened. She did not think too much about it. Only thinking that based on Zhou Xian's power, anything would be a cinch. However, his opponent was a divine artifact. It was a divine artifact that had been sealed since 1,000 years ago. It was a divine artifact that made the dark forces restless. How could a mortal match his strength? Zhou Xian continued to release his biting cold profound qi. His imposing manner was like a rainbow. The powerful blast caused his purple robe to flutter like a pair of purple wings. Under the contrast of the purple robe, the nearly transparent profound energy seemed to have turned into purple and gathered together, constantly intertwining and colliding with the red lightning. Wave after wave of increasingly powerful profound energy was actually able to contend against the might released by the divine artifact. Yiqing Luo was shocked by the fluctuation of this profound qi. If it wasn't for Old Man Song protecting her heart, she would have been unable to bear the heavy burden and her internal organs would have been ruptured. Good lad. He's too powerful. He actually wants to use brute force to conquer a divine tool. Old Man Song also saw this scene and his tone was full of praise. Using brute force to conquer a divine artifact? What do you mean? This lad wants to forcibly conquer the divine artifact and tame it for you. In this way, when you get the divine artifact, you won't suffer the backlash of the divine artifact. Old Man Song clicked his tongue. This lad has deep feelings for you. When Yiqing Luo heard this, her expression immediately turned ashen. Forcibly conquer. Chapter 881. This was the reason why Zhou Xian pushed her down before she could get up and went up first? However, how could it be so easy to conquer a divine artifact? Looking at that purple and red blended together, the uneasiness in Yiqing Luo's heart started to spread wantonly. Her slender fingers curled up one by one as she clenched her fists. As though he had made up his mind, his gaze turned resolute and he quickly stepped forward. "Lass, what are you doing?" Old man Song anxiously shouted. "Quickly retreat. With your current strength, you're completely unable to withstand the pressure of a divine artifact. I can't let Xian fall into danger for me." Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change at all as she walked straight ahead. "Xian is doing this for me. If I were to stand by the side and watch with folded arms, then what do I count as? Putting Zhou Xian in danger." And she was enjoying Zhou Xian's contribution. She couldn't do it, nor could she accept it calmly. That brat's strength is completely capable of withstanding the pressure of a divine artifact, but you can't. Old man Song raised his voice, and there was a hint of reprimand in it. "He took the risk for you. If you rush over now, wouldn't all his efforts be for naught?" No matter what, Old man Song would absolutely not let Yiqing Luo go over. Going there was no different from courting death. It knew better than anyone how powerful that divine artifact was. It won't lose its meaning. Yiqing Luo's fingers tightened as she gazed at Zhou Xian with lingering emotions. The divine relic has never been as important as Xian. I'd rather not have it than to see Xian put himself in danger. And, most importantly, she could sense the direction of the divine artifact. It was as if the profound heart jade was calling out to her. It was the same feeling. The artifact was calling out to her. She had a bold guess. The summoning of the divine tool was probably because she had obtained the recognition of the divine tool and was able to resist its pressure. Otherwise, the divine artifact wouldn't have summoned her alone. Even old man Song didn't sense that she was being summoned by the divine artifact. Regardless of whether this guess was true or not. Since she had sensed the call of the artifact, she had to give it a try. She could not let Zhou Xian take any more risks. To Zhou Xian, this consumed too much profound qi. Zhou Xian wanted to protect her, and she wanted to protect Zhou Xian too. Yiqing Luo gripped the glower flame fan tightly and condensed profound qi to protect her heart meridians. Resolutely, she took a step forward and walked towards the direction of Zhou Xian. "Lil Luo, danger, get out of the way." Zhou Xian realized Yiqing Luo's actions and immediately turned his head to look at her as his heart was in a fluster. His purple robe fluttered in the wind as he flew towards Yiqing Luo in an attempt to prevent her from stepping into the range of the divine relic suppression. "Xian, don't worry about me. Watch your back." Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased into a bundle. She saw that Zhou Xian did not care about the red lightning which was shot out by the divine relic behind him, and just blindly headed towards her direction. Yiqing Luo didn't want to become his burden. Seeing that the red lightning was about to hit Zhou Xian, Yiqing Luo's heart skipped a beat. The chant overflowed from her mouth and her feet started moving at the same time. Teleportation secret technique. But in the blink of an eye, she appeared behind Zhou Xian. The silver threads shot out from the glowing flame fan formed a protective barrier at the fastest speed, blocking in front of him. Zhou Xian was slightly startled. Thinking of the scene of the young lady disappearing in front of him in a flash, even he couldn't catch her afterimage of movement. Yiqing Luo displayed the teleportation secret technique. "Little Luo, you're messing around again." His words were full of complaints. However, there was a hint of helplessness and pampering in his tone. Their thoughts were the same. They just wanted to protect each other. Chapter 882. The red lightning struck down with crackling sounds. There were countless electric currents running through it. Zhou Xian had already turned around, stretched out his hand to hold Yiqing Luo's slender waist, raised his palm to condense profound qi, and was about to meet the lightning. A shocking scene happened. The red lightning, after touching the silver silk shield that Yiqing Luo had formed, it actually flickered slightly and the electric current disappeared directly. The surging red light and airflow in the surroundings also stopped at this moment. Everything returned to peace. It was as if the pressure of the divine relic had never appeared. Yiqing Luo looked at the silver silk shield in front of her and slowly withdrew the silver silk. She stared at the entrance of the red light which could accommodate one person in a daze with a surprised look. What is going on? Could it be, her guess was true? The divine relic summoned her and acknowledged her? So when she came to meet the divine relic withdrew all the protective energy? A finger flicked on her forehead. Zhou Xian sighed helplessly. If I knew that the divine relic had acknowledged you, I wouldn't have wasted so much effort to rush up. So tiring. Sure enough. This meant that the divine relic had acknowledged her. Looking at the faint outline in the red light, Yiqing Luo's brows did not ease because of the divine relic's approval. Why? Would the divine relic approve of me? There were only 4 of them who entered the sealed space. She was the weakest among the 4 of them. No matter what, the divine relic would not take a fancy to her. If anything, it should be approved by Zhou Xian. It's very likely because the divine relic is male. Zhou Xian held his chin and answered seriously. Yiqing Luo. Divine relic was also divided into male and female? Was he kidding her? Hurry up and get the divine relic. Zhou Xian pinched her little face. His lips curved into an extremely gentle arc, his tone pampering her. Yiqing Luo rubbed her face, saw some signs of fatigue in his eyes, and knew that he was like this because of her, so she did not rebuke him for pinching her face. Instead, she obediently walked towards the entrance of the red light. Yiqing Luo hadn't noticed that after she turned around, Zhou Xian's smiling lips had slowly faded a little. His inky pupils gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo's back view. There was a profound look in his eyes. It seemed to contain some complicated emotions. After a long time, he stretched out his hand and pressed his finger against the space between his eyebrows. He let out a long sigh that was so soft that it was almost inaudible. Listening carefully, there was no longer any sound. After passing through the red light entrance, Yiqing Luo's vision fell onto the only stone table in the narrow space. The stone table was not big, about the size of a chess table. The surface of the stone table was covered with a thin layer of white cool air. When Zhou Xian got closer, he could feel an extremely cold aura invading his body. A shelf made of the same material was placed on top of the stone table. Wisps of cold air floated around it. On the stone frame there was a string of, it looked like an ornament. That's right, accessories. It was a ring carved from jade. It was different from the profound phoenix ring that Zhou Xian had given her. This ring was about the width of 2 fingers put together. The pattern on it was extremely complicated and strange. It looked a bit like a cherry blossom pattern. Faintly, there was a red light flowing on the ring. This was a divine relic. It looked like it had a sense of history passed down from ancient times. But this divine relic, did it have any special power? It's actually the Azure Water Ring. Chapter 883. Blue Water Ring? Azure Dew Bracelet? From Old Man Song's tone, he knew that there was definitely a connection between the two. No wonder you were acknowledged by the divine artifact. Old Man Song stroked his shining white beard as his spirit body flashed and circled to Yiqing Luo's side. He leaned over and stared at the ring on her palm. This ring, could it be a set with the Azure Dew Bracelet? Old Man Song nodded with a smile on his face. His tone was unable to conceal his excitement. I forgot to tell you that there is indeed a set of Azure Water accessories. However, the Azure Water Bracelet isn't included. A set of Azure Water accessories? Then why wasn't the Azure Dew Bracelet a part of the set? This old man was born in the Azure Dew Bracelet. Before I became an artifact spirit, the Azure Dew Bracelet already existed. As for the origin of the Azure Dew Bracelet, this old man is not too clear. Old Man Song was in a good mood and he became more talkative. According to this old man's memories, the previous owner of the Azure Dew Bracelets probably only wanted to forge the Azure Dew Bracelets. In the end, because there were too many materials, he forged another set of ornaments. But, Old Man Song paused. The Azure Dew Bracelet is the main magic artifact. The amount of profound energy and spiritual energy poured into it is much greater than that set of ornaments. That was to say, the reason why the Azure Dew Bracelet was able to contain Old Man Song and had the Purgatory Pagoda within it was because the original owner of the Azure Dew Bracelet had once spent a great deal of spiritual energy to refine it. Although the other Azure Water series accessories could be called divine artifacts, they couldn't compare to the Azure Dew Bracelet. And because she had signed a contract with the Azure Dew Bracelet, her body contained the energy of the Azure Dew Bracelet. Thus, after sensing the existence of the Azure Dew Bracelet, the Azure Dew Bracelet took the initiative to summon her, and even acknowledged her as its new master? Thinking about it this way, it did seem to make sense. Since you've already encountered the first azure dew ornament, then the following 4 kinds of ornaments, you should also gather them. Old Man Song's spirit body circled around Yiqing Luo once before entering the azure dew bracelet. Find the other 4 accessories. Was he going to summon the dragon god? These were all divine artifacts. A ring had once caused the sect masters of the 4 major sects to mobilize so many people to seal it. The other accessories were obviously not that easy to find. A single divine artifact isn't that powerful. Of course, it's a great help to you now. Old Man Song explained. After gathering all 5 azure water accessories, the divine weapon's power will undergo an earth-shattering change. Yiqing Luo gripped the azure dew ring tightly as she felt the flowing red light above and sighed lightly. Azure water accessories, a set of 5. Let's not talk about the power of the divine tool. Just for the sake of Old Man Song, the other ornaments must be retrieved. That brat is still waiting for you. Go out first. If you're any later, he'll directly rush in. Old Man Song seemed to have sensed the situation outside and laughed in a low voice. Zhou Xian would indeed do so. Even if the divine artifact acknowledged her, there was no guarantee that nothing would happen. Yiqing Luo wore the ring on her finger and immediately walked out from the entrance. Just as she stepped out of the mouth of the red light, she crashed into Zhou Xian's arms. Obviously, Zhou Xian was prepared to enter the red light entrance. Are you all right? Zhou Xian's gaze swiftly swept across Yiqing Luo's body to ascertain that she wasn't injured, and his heart, which was hanging in suspense, finally calmed down. Yiqing Luo shook the ring on her fingertip. This is a divine artifact. Zhou Xian recognized it at a glance. Azure Dew Ring? I didn't expect that the divine artifact sealed here would be the Azure Dew Ring. You also know about this ring? Yiqing Luo touched the ring. She didn't sense any special power on the ring. Was it really a divine artifact? Idiot, you should first contract with the Azure Dew Ring. Zhou Xian helplessly laughed and reached out to hold her little hand. With a sweep of his fingertip, a drop of fresh blood condensed on his fingertip. Chapter 884. Yiqing Luo didn't feel any pain. There was no trace of a wound on his fingers. Her heart warmed. Zhou Xian didn't even want to see the blood and wounds of the contract on her body. He would rather expend his profound qi to extract a drop of her blood. Although it was just a casual action. But Yiqing Luo could feel that Zhou Xian cherished her. Her lips curled upwards as her charming eyes were filled with deep affection, smiling as she gazed at Zhou Xian's peerless side profile. No matter from which angle, this man, appeared handsome, profound, and calm. It was only when she felt a burning sensation on her fingertips that she came back to her senses. Ah! Subconsciously, he wanted to retract his hand. Her wrist was tightly locked by Zhou Xian. Little Luo is so infatuated with this face of mine? Zhou Xian's fingertips caressed her palm as he teasingly curled his lips and looked at her sideways. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red as she stared at him in embarrassment. The man's low and deep laughter could be heard, as if he was extremely happy. Soon after, Zhou Xian's large palm covered her head and slowly slid down to the fringe on her forehead, rubbing it. If you want to look at me, wait until we return to the room tonight. I'll let you look at me for as long as you want. But for now, it's better to concentrate your attention on the Azure Dew Ring. Shameless. Yiqing Luo's face turned even redder as she slapped his palm away in shame and indignation, as a light snort came out from her nose. Only then did he place his gaze on the azure water ring. Within the Azure Dew bracelet, Old Man Song covered his eyes. He held his forehead and sighed, shaking his head. Ayaya, a girl's home is a girl's home. If I hadn't seen this shy girl with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed that this girl with a face like a peach blossom and eyes filled with shyness was Luoya. If it wasn't for Zhou Xian, I'm afraid I would have treated Las Luo as a man. After Yiqing Luo's blood fused into the azure aqua ring, the red lightning on the ring increased its speed. Red light quickly blossomed from the ring, like waves of red ripples. The cherry blossom patterns carved on the ring seemed to move with the wind, and petals swirled in the air. He didn't know if it was an illusion. Yiqing Luo could actually smell the fragrance of cherry blossoms. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. As the cherry blossoms fluttered in the air, the red electric currents seemed to flow with ancient lines. The scorching heat burned her fingers. After the contract, the power of the ring will be yours to use. Zhou Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's eyes filled with joy, as his charming eyes sparkled with a sparkling luster, as the corners of his lips curled into an arc. After forming the contract, Yiqing Luo could distinctly feel a powerful force unceasingly flowing and pouring into her heart, lingering around the nurturing profound jade heart's surroundings. However, this powerful energy did not fuse with the profound heart jade. However, it continued to linger in the surroundings as if it was causing a backlash against the profound heart jade. If Yiqing Luo could see the current her, she would definitely be shocked. The current Yiqing Luo was enveloped in a ball of red glow. It made her extremely beautiful face look even more beautiful than before. Especially that pair of long and narrow eyes, under the embellishment of the red glow, seemed to emit a charm that could steal one's soul. Let's go and retrieve your profound jade heart. Zhou Xian's palm had been embracing Yiqing Luo's slender waist, while the other hand held her slender wrist. He naturally sensed that something was wrong with Yiqing Luo's heart. The two turned around and left the sealed space. Perhaps Yiqing Luo and the Azure Aqua Ring had already formed a blood contract. 3,000 spaces didn't show any other unusual movements. The two had just walked out of 3,000 spaces when they saw a profound practitioner dressed in a black robe. Even his head was covered tightly, quietly heading towards the place where the giant beast totem had split open. Chapter 885. Dark Forces People? Yiqing Luo recognized this attire at one glance. As expected, there were still people from the Dark Forces in King Ling's tomb. Zhou Xian released Yiqing Luo's slender waist as his purple robe swept, and he had already appeared in front of the black-robed man as he stretched out his hand to stop the black-robed man's intention to snatch the profound heart jade. The black-robed man didn't expect that they would turn back so coincidentally. Zhou Xian dangerously narrowed his long peach blossom eyes as he gazed at the black-robed man's hand. Before he could describe it, a strong airwave turned into a turbulent line with imposing manner as it attacked towards the black-robed man's hand. The black-robed man's reaction was extremely fast. As Zhou Xian neared, he swiftly retracted his hand and retreated a few steps. After stabilizing himself, the black-robed man immediately turned around and was about to leave. This black-robed man was the only clue to the dark forces. He was also the medium to release the profound yin qi in Long Yunzhan's body. How would Zhou Xian let the black-robed man leave? Without any hesitation he chased after the black-robed man. Since you dare to snatch Lil Luo's special profound heart jade, why run? Zhou Xian's rosy lips curled up slightly as his eyes were covered with frost. That black-robed man's footsteps became faster and faster. Only, how could the black-robed man's speed compare to Zhou Xian? But within a few breaths, the black-robed man had already been stopped by Zhou Xian. Dark Forces People? That dog shitlord asked you to take Lil Luo's profound heart jade? Zhou Xian stood in front of the black-robed man as his voice was gentle as though he was having an ordinary chat, calm and indifferent. The man hidden under the black robe seemed to tremble. But he still didn't say a word. Zhou Xian lost his patience as his 5 fingers locked onto the black-robed man's neck as his fingertips flicked lightly. The black robe slid down from the black-robed man's head. Creak. A crisp cracking sound could be heard. The black robe fell off and revealed a set of ghastly white bones under the black robe. The moment the black robe was ripped off, the white bones that were used to prop up the frame broke. Substitution forbidden technique. Zhou Xian's expression changed slightly as he speedily threw the white bone in his hand out. He raised his eyes towards Yiqing Luo and as he dashed towards her he cried out sharply, "Lil Luo? Be careful." Yiqing Luo stood by the side of the huge beast's mouth, observing their battle situation without blinking. Zhou Xian lifted up his black robe and she saw the scene of eerie white bones underneath. Old Man Song reminded him in his mind. This was also a type of forbidden technique called the substitution forbidden technique. By consuming a large amount of profound jade heart's energy and absorbing a large amount of demonic energy, he could use the simplest of things to create his own substitute. After listening to Old Man Song's explanation, Yiqing Luo immediately withdrew from the huge beast seal and with a fierce slap of her palm, the huge beast which had split open once again closed up. Her opponent's goal was her profound heart jade. The profound heart jade that had already disappeared for so long. With great difficulty he finally saw his profound heart jade. How could Yiqing Luo possibly allow the Dark Forces people to take away her profound heart jade? She needed her profound jade heart. He needed his own profound heart jade. The moment the giant beast closed up, a black shadow appeared behind it. A gloomy and cold aura attacked from behind. Bam bam bam. That black-robed man's original body directly struck out several palm winds. Bursts of palm winds landed on the rock wall which was covered with totems, causing the surroundings to shake endlessly. The ground shook, but this sealed ground didn't have a single piece of gravel falling. That huge beast which had opened its bloody mouth and stuck out its scarlet-red tongue didn't suffer any damage at all. However, the young lady who originally thought that she would be smashed into a meat patty under the palm winds. After the dust dispersed, there wasn't a single figure to be seen. The black-robed man reacted, turned his head and swiftly retreated, sticking close to the huge beast's rock wall. Chapter 886. The glower flame fan waved at her fingertips and a strong red glow struck towards the black-robed man's face. Things had already exceeded the black-robed man's expectations. You who have lost your profound jade heart still have such an agile reaction. A hoarse ear-piercing voice was heard from under the black robe. It was an old man's voice and the words he said seemed to be uttered with great difficulty. Following that, the black-robed man's figure turned into an afterimage as he dodged Yiqing Luo's attack. A blood blade suffused with profound yin qi shot out from under the black-robed man's robe. Its imposing manner was like a swift and violent arrow leaving the bow. Yiqing Luo's 5 fingers gripped the glower flame fan tightly as a surge of profound qi surged from her body towards the feather fan. She took the opportunity to open the feather fan and swept up thousands of huge waves as she met those blood blades with ease. The two forces collided in midair. The black profound yin qi instantly wrapped around Yiqing Luo's profound qi. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed as the feather fan shot out a few strands of silver silk. The silver light flickered as it densely blossomed. Like a sharp blade, it sliced the mysterious yin qi into several pieces with a crackling sound. Up in midair, the two waves of power instantly dissipated. The two of them stood face to face. The black-robed man also became serious. Yiqing Luo was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. How many people from the dark forces are there in the Ling King's tomb? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she looked coldly at the black-robed man. Her peripheral vision saw Zhou Xian standing beside the huge beast totem with its bloody mouth wide open, looking as though he was watching by the side. She knew that he was prepared to let her handle the matter herself. The black-robed man also noticed that the powerful man had no intention to make a move. He then put his heart at ease as he laughed sinisterly. There aren't many people, but it's enough to make you unable to leave the Ling King's tomb. Do you think you can leave? Yiqing Luo scoffed disapprovingly as her eyes were filled with coldness. The black-robed man was fearless. Silly lass, spouting nonsense just because you have some tricks up your sleeves. I want to see how you are going to stop me from leaving. The black-robed man's figure charged towards Yiqing Luo once again. His target wasn't Yiqing Luo, but the profound jade heart on the huge beast's scarlet tongue. As long as he took away the profound heart jade and left, his mission would be considered complete. Boom. A loud sound rang out. Yiqing Luo opened her feather fan without any hesitation, not caring that Zhou Xian was still standing beside the huge beast, as she launched the next wave of attack. His imposing Xian qi continued to bombard the area. How could the black-robed man still have the chance to approach the profound heart jade? Moreover, the black-robed man absolutely believed it. If he were to touch a single strand of hair on Yiqing Luo, that powerful man standing under the huge beast's mouth would not hesitate to tear him into pieces. The black-robed man clenched his fists tightly. Without the two of them noticing, he cut his palm with one of his fingers. A drop of blood enveloped by the mysterious yin qi slowly melted into the ground. The ball of mysterious yin qi that was wrapped around him also dissipated. Yiqing Luo set off a strong air wave, blowing the black robe on top of the man's head down. It revealed a pair of extremely sinister and strange eyes. It was like an ice-cold poisonous snake. The corners of the black-robed man's mouth curled into a strange, cold smile, as though he was ridiculing Yiqing Luo's ignorance. Yiqing Luo seemed to have realized something as the cold glint in her eyes deepened. The attacks from the glower flame fan in her hands became even more ferocious. The enchanting red aura's pressure rose steadily. That azure dew ring on her fingertip, following the rise of Yiqing Luo's imposing manner, also gradually emitted a scorching hot feeling. At her heart, a strong Xianxia started to surge. In a split second, numerous silver threads intertwined with that Xianxia, densely shooting out in all directions. Chapter 887. The black-robed man's lips twitched in disdain as his peripheral vision kept observing Zhou Xian. Seeing that he still had no intention to make a move, that smirk of ridicule on his lips grew thicker. Just as Yiqing Luo's attack was about to land on the black-robed man, the entire sealed area began to rumble and shake violently. A black figure scurried to the front of the black-robed man. A pair of azure-blue eyes were calm without any ripples. At the same time, the owner of this pair of azure-blue eyes raised the blue long sword in his hand as he stabbed towards Yiqing Luo. It seemed as though he wanted to perish together with Yiqing Luo. On seeing Long Yunzhan's appearance, Yiqing Luo's heart trembled. She thought that the black-robed man wanted to take the opportunity to leave the sealed grounds. She had not expected the black-robed man to summon Long Yunzhan over. He wanted to use Long Yunzhan's life to exchange for her life? This plan was really well planned. She had not given up on the idea of letting them kill each other. Ha ha ha. Just in time for the most exciting scene. A sharp laughter was heard from the top of the Ling King's main tomb. Following that, Shangguan Liuli leapt down with a smile on her face which was filled with a complacent smile. Yiqing Luo noticed that the injuries on Shangguan Liuli had already recovered. It was probably the effect of the profound yin qi. Shangguan Liuli's eyes, which were painted with gold powder, were filled with frenzied hatred. That delicate face was twisted. Yiqing Luo, if you retract this move, you will not be able to avoid your group leader's sword. If you avoid your group leader's sword, then your group leader will die under your attack. Saying that, Shangguan Liuli started laughing loudly. Her laughter was extremely maniacal and filled with satisfaction. What will you choose, Yiqing Luo? Go. 1. Lu. Li. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth as she stared at that young lady who was laughing maniacally. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. It was Shangguan Liuli again, that annoying scumbag. Time and time again she made use of Long Yunzhan to hurt him. Long Yunzhan's profound yin qi was related to Shangguan Liuli. Facing Yiqing Luo's murderous intent, Shangguan Liuli wasn't afraid at all. She laughed savagely. She wanted to see if Yiqing Luo would choose to be injured for the sake of the so-called loyalty. People are always selfish. No one would be willing to sacrifice themselves for others. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth as she retracted her gaze. Right now what she needed to think about was how to ensure her and Long Yunzhan's safety. As for Shangguan Liuli, that hopping grasshopper, once he was done with this matter he would deal with her. It would be a piece of cake. Looking at Long Yunzhan's expressionless face, his profound energy was already closing in on him, but he didn't have the slightest intention of opening it. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly pale. It was impossible for her to let the profound energy she had released earlier land on Long Yunzhan's body. She naturally understood exactly how much energy she'd expended to sweep up that strand of profound energy earlier. Long Yunzhan really took it. Long Yunzhan was either dead or crippled. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed as she secretly gritted her teeth. At this moment, the silver threads of the glower flame fan swiftly retracted and immediately rolled up another strong wave of qi. Forcefully, it caused the profound energy which was released earlier to deviate by an angle. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's footwork extended as she displayed her own set of strange footwork in an attempt to avoid Long Yunzhan's attack. But Yiqing Luo had forgotten about it. Even if Long Yunzhan's consciousness was controlled by the profound yin qi, but this body was still Long Yunzhan's body. At the same time when Yiqing Luo's footwork was displayed, Long Yunzhan's body had already predicted that she would make such a move. Immediately his long sword tilted. Chapter 888. Little Luo. Zhou Xian's peach blossom eyes were deep and gloomy as he was about to make a move to fetch Yiqing Luo. Seeing this, the man in black quickly rushed toward the giant beast. Zhou Xian's eyes narrowed as his purple robe fluttered. His cold and piercingly cold voice was intimidating. Under this lord's eyes, how dare you snatch the thing that this lord wants? As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful profound energy erupted from his surroundings. Wave after wave they spread throughout the entire sealed area. The black-clothed man who was rushing toward the giant beast, was forced to spit out a mouthful of blood under the strong pressure. He fell to the ground, unable to move. Zhou Xian gave a light harumph as he turned his head to look at Yiqing Luo. Long Yunzhan hugged the young girl whose shoulder was pierced in the shoulder. Long Yunzhan's hand, which was holding the long sword, was stained with Yiqing Luo's blood as he kept on trembling and crying out. Faintly, one could see Long Yunzhan's trembling body. He was about to step forward, but he stopped. A vortex that seemed to be able to swallow everything surged in the depths of his dark and gloomy eyes. He turned around and returned to the side of the huge beast's bloody mouth, quietly guarding Yiqing Luo's profound jade heart. Yiqing Luo's face turned pale from the pain as she glanced at the wound on her shoulder. As expected of a sword made from the bones of a human and a dragon. Just by grazing her shoulder, so much blood gushed out. Her body was in Long Yunzhan's arms. She could clearly feel Long Yunzhan's long body trembling. "Ah Zhan." Yiqing Luo endured the intense pain on her shoulder as she called out Long Yunzhan's name softly. Long Yunzhan's body trembled even more. His chest was forcefully propped up by Yiqing Luo, and when she saw his face, Yiqing Luo was stunned. That pair of azure eyes at this moment was enduring some kind of intense pain. The black aura in his eyes kept moving. With every movement, Long Yunzhan's brows furrowed a little more. However, he forcefully suppressed this intense pain. It seemed to be fighting intensely against the mysterious yin qi. Yiqing Luo understood something. The sword in Long Yunzhan's hand was made from Long Yunzhan's bones. After being stained with her blood, Long Yunzhan naturally sensed her presence. It was her blood that awakened Long Yunzhan's consciousness. Her eyes sparkled as she reached out and gripped Long Yunzhan's clothes, speaking in a gentle voice. "Ah Zhan, it's me. Open your eyes and look at me." The cries caused Long Yunzhan to reveal an extremely pained expression. At this moment, the mysterious yin energy flowing in his eyes grew larger and larger, swirling around him. Long Yunzhan couldn't bear the heavy burden as he howled loudly, as he loosened Yiqing Luo's petite body. Then he turned around and rushed out of the sealed area, disappearing without a trace. Yiqing Luo stabilized her body and chased after Long Yunzhan for a few steps, but helplessly the wound on her shoulder emitted a tearing pain. She put her hand on her shoulder and gave up on the idea of chasing after him. Her blood still remained on Long Yunzhan's long sword. He would definitely be able to make Long Yunzhan regain his rationality. What a scene of deep affection and righteousness. Shangguan Liuli stared at Yiqing Luo malevolently, her eyes filled with viciousness. It was such a good opportunity, but it didn't develop according to his imagination. They had not expected that Yiqing Luo really chose to accept their group leader's sword and not let him get hurt. This ridiculous sense of loyalty, it was simply a joke. Shangguan Liuli's eyes were filled with wanton profound yin energy as her 5 fingers suddenly turned into eagle claws, charging towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as the feather fan in her hands flipped a few times, directly welcoming Shangguan Liuli's attack. Profound qi surged like a rainbow, creating a devilish crack in the air. That black profound yin energy intertwined with Yiqing Luo's red glow. Bam! Chapter 889. Even though Shangguan Liuli had the mysterious yin qi to back her up, Shangguan Liuli was just a piece of trash. Yiqing Luo sneered, her fingertips touched the scorching ring and her 5 fingers clenched tightly. A powerful profound qi that caused one's heart to palpitate burst forth from Yiqing Luo's body. Shangguan Liuli's expression suddenly changed. Just as he was about to turn around and run, a piercing chill came from behind him. Shangguan Liuli knew that she couldn't escape, so she gave up and racked her brains to think of a way to deal with it. Suddenly, an idea flashed past her mind as she anxiously said, "Yiqing Luo, you can't kill me. The woman who blocked the sword for you earlier, the poison in her body was not only from the purple poppy grass. There was also the powder specially made by the dark forces. If you kill me, that woman will die too." Shangguan Liuli's words successfully stopped the movements of the people behind her. The glowing flame fan was only a few fingers away from her neck. "What did you say?" Yiqing Luo's fingers tightened on the feather fan as she questioned him coldly. It was a matter of life and death. No matter how quick-witted Shangguan Liuli was, she knew that it was a matter of life and death. As long as she could use that woman as a threat, Yiqing Luo would absolutely not dare to kill her. Thinking up to this point, Shangguan Liuli's expression calmed down. "If you don't believe me, You can kill me and go back to find some purple millet grass to see if you can save your companion." Shangguan Liuli raised her neck high as though waiting for Yiqing Luo to strike. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists, her long and narrow eyes were piercingly cold. In the end he put away the feather fan. Regardless of whether Shangguan Liuli's words were true or false, Yiqing Luo didn't even dare to use Yan Shaoyi's life to probe if Yan Shaoyi was really poisoned by the dark forces. Ghost doctor. He didn't know if he could make an antidote. Shangguan Liuli heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the danger was resolved, and then a wisp of a cold smile appeared on her face. Letting go of a person who wanted him dead was the worst choice he could make. Unfortunately, Yiqing Luo let her off. Just for that ridiculous sense of brotherhood. Shangguan Liuli was dismissive. Things like loyalty would only become her stumbling block. There was nothing in this world that could be relied on. Only he could use all his means to stand at the peak. What poison did she get? Yiqing Luo suppressed the anger in her heart and stared at Shangguan Liuli with a murderous look. If I told you, would I still be able to leave this place alive? Shangguan Liuli sneered, the black chi slowly covering her body once more. If I asked you to leave, would you still tell me? Yiqing Luo's charming eyes suddenly turned piercingly cold. Her fingertips pinched the glower flame fan as she approached in a flash, unafraid of the profound yin qi surrounding Shangguan Liuli. With a wave of the feather fan, the dark yin qi was split open. In the blink of an eye, she had already approached Shangguan Liuli. She reached out and grabbed Shangguan Liuli's collar. You dare to play such petty tricks in front of me? Yiqing Luo's speed was so fast that even the profound yin qi had not detected her. Shangguan Liuli stared at Yiqing Luo in astonishment, as she obviously felt that Yiqing Luo's power had increased once again. The divine relic had fallen into Yiqing Luo's hands? Shangguan Liuli's peripheral vision glanced at the ring on Yiqing Luo's fingertip as her pupils contracted slightly. Noticing Shangguan Liuli's expression, Yiqing Luo directly locked her lower jaw as she sneered. Looks like you've just tasted some sweetness and you're so obedient to that so-called lord of yours? Thinking of helping that lord to get the divine relic? Shangguan Liuli's face instantly turned pale as her pupils contracted. Chapter 890. However, Shangguan Liuli's tone was flustered, as well as that unconcealable flickering glint in her eyes which had tried her best to make her expression calm. It showed that Shangguan Liuli absolutely knew the Dark Forces' lord, and knew that the Dark Forces' objective for this mission was the God Relic. Shangguan Liuli's evasive words made Yiqing Luo suspicious of Shangguan Liuli's identity. Those people whom she met who made deals with the Dark Forces. Other than Xianxia, no one else was able to control the profound yin qi freely. On the contrary, most of them were controlled by the profound yin qi. Not to mention knowing about the Lord. The last time they met, Yiqing Luo had not detected any profound yin qi from Shangguan Liuli, which meant that Shangguan Liuli's deal with the Dark Forces was just a matter of a few days. In just a few days, Shangguan Liuli already knew about the Dark Forces' internal situation, knew about the Lord, knew the objective of this mission. Logically speaking, the Dark Forces belonged to the group of rats. They were the most cautious in everything they did. If it was just to make use of the relationship, how would it be possible for a dumb pig like Shangguan Liuli to know more about the Dark Forces? Unless... What did Shangguan Liuli take to make a deal with the Dark Forces? Or perhaps... Just as she was deep in thoughts, Shangguan Liuli seemed to have noticed Yiqing Luo's daze. She immediately struck out with her palm. A strong gush of air came towards her, and the sense of danger made Yiqing Luo subconsciously let go of her hand as she retreated a few steps. Shangguan Liuli immediately flew towards the direction of the main tomb. Trying to escape? Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as the feather fan in her hand moved and a burst of profound qi pressed forward. When it got near to Shangguan Liuli, it transformed into a huge red dragon as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws to block Shangguan Liuli's path. Coincidentally, that black-robed man had already reached the entrance of the main tomb and was about to leave. But because of Shangguan Liuli's nearing, even the black-robed man was blocked. Black-robed man's face turned steely green as he silently scolded Shangguan Liuli for not knowing what's good for her. Shangguan Liuli looked at the huge red dragon in disbelief. Although she knew that this was just an illusion formed from profound qi. But when the huge dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws to bite her head, her heart still felt terrified. Just at this moment, All of a sudden the entire sealed land began to shake. The incomparably sturdy walls covered with giant beast totems began to crack. A powerful fluctuation of profound qi spread out in the sealed area. In an instant the entire sealed area was filled with smoke and dust, and gravel flew in all directions. Zhou Xian seemed to have realized something as his gloomy black eyes flickered faintly as he opened his mouth. "Lil Luo, come over." Even with the protection of a divine artifact, this powerful undulation was nothing. Yiqing Luo also felt the pressure. Yiqing Luo didn't try to be brave as she immediately turned around and flew towards Zhou Xian. At the same time the profound qi in the air began to fluctuate like the clouds and rain. Bang bang bang, boom boom boom. A deafening sound directly exploded at the place where Yiqing Luo was standing earlier. Gravel flew everywhere in an instant. The giant beast totem on the wall trembled and cracked, but it still looked very lifelike. Yiqing Luo glanced at it from the corner of her eyes and felt that the appearance of that huge beast was extremely familiar. He felt as if he was about to recall something. Suddenly he heard Shangguan Liuli's ecstatic voice. "My lord! My lord?" When Yiqing Luo heard this form of address, her sharp eyes looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw a figure covered in a black robe looming in the midst of the dust. That figure walked directly in front of Shangguan Liuli and stretched out his hand to grab her arm. Chapter 891. The strong wind stirred and the air billowed. The moment that person grabbed Shangguan Liuli and left the sealed ground, the black robe covering that person's head had a small corner blown open. Coincidentally, that person turned his head and looked over. His gaze met with Yiqing Luo's. But in the blink of an eye, that person shifted his gaze, grabbed Shangguan Liuli and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Yiqing Luo didn't chase after him. She also knew that it was impossible to catch up. Only, if she didn't see wrongly that Lord eyes. It was the ruthlessness of dipped poison. As though he hated her to the core. That pair of eyes looked like a woman's eyes. And there was a vaguely familiar feeling. That was the boss of the dark forces, the person who was addressed as Lord? No. Yiqing Luo felt that something was strange. Powerful strength as well as a daunting pressure. Indeed seemed like an extremely powerful opponent. But Yiqing Luo felt that. The mastermind of the dark forces who had been hiding in the dark, how could he appear in front of her so easily? Especially just to save Shangguan Liuli? He didn't even have the intention to take her profound jade heart. Then, why would Shangguan Liuli shout Lord at that person? Was it deliberately shouted for her to hear, to divert her target? Or Shangguan Liuli really felt that person was Lord? After that person left with Shangguan Liuli, the entire sealed ground gradually quietened down. Let's leave too. Yiqing Luo restrained the deep thoughts in her eyes. She turned around and stretched out her hand to pick up her profound jade heart. Perhaps it was because she was excited to finally find her profound jade heart. Her hand was slightly trembling. When she took it out, her fingertip was cut by that huge beast's realistic teeth. A drop of blood slowly dripped down along the huge beast's carved teeth. Yiqing Luo didn't pay attention to it, only holding her profound jade heart and returned to Zhou Xian's side, her eyes filled with joy. That blood slowly merged into the teeth. A ray of dark light, faintly discernible. In a split second, peace returned. Zhou Xian's eyes were filled with smiles, his long and narrow peach blossom eyes were deep and serene, filled with pampering intent. Suddenly, as if he had sensed something, he turned his head to look at the giant beast with its bloody mouth wide open. Moreover, he sensed something strange and immediately retracted his gaze. Rubbing Yiqing Luo's hair, he said with a faint smile, "Fuse the profound heart jade into your body, then fuse the power of the divine weapon with the profound heart jade. Your profound grade should have an enormous increase." Yiqing Luo nodded her head hard. She tightly gripped her profound heart jade, and her pink lips hooked into an enchanting smile. Her charming eyes were long and narrow. "Before that, I still have to take care of this abandoned person." As she spoke, her gaze slowly shifted to the black-robed man who was moving at the speed of a tortoise, trying his best to make himself as inconspicuous as possible as he moved towards the exit. The black-robed man's body froze. "Do you want to live?" Yiqing Luo smiled as she gazed at him. The black-robed man hesitated for a moment and looked at Zhou Xian. He seemed to be weighing something. If it was Yiqing Luo alone without the profound heart jade, she might still have a chance to deal with it. But that man, The black-robed man suddenly remembered that the man seemed to have called himself main body? The original body. The black-robed man's expression abruptly changed as he guessed Zhou Xian's identity. Immediately, he nodded without hesitation. I want to live. Answer a few of my questions. If I'm satisfied, I can consider letting you leave. Yiqing Luo smiled satisfactorily as she threw out a bait. The people from the dark forces, each more selfish than the other. They were all extremely greedy for life and afraid of death. Just look at Elder Xiong and Guardian Ying and you'd know. Chapter 892. Under Zhou Xian's identity, the black-robed man totally didn't notice the murderous intent in Yiqing Luo's eyes when she said this sentence. Most importantly, in the eyes of the black-robed man, Yiqing Luo's arrogance was merely because of Zhou Xian's backing. And he didn't put Yiqing Luo in his eyes. That person earlier isn't the so-called Lord, right? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she asked the first question. The black-robed man's face instantly turned pale. That sinister and sneaky face surfaced a trace of fear and fear. He shook his head and made a cross gesture with his mouth. Can't say? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as a sliver of danger appeared. The black-robed man's gaze looked towards Zhou Xian as he struggled to shake his head, indicating that he really couldn't answer this question. Yiqing Luo was about to open her mouth when Zhou Xian's warm palm covered her shoulder. Yiqing Luo looked back at him. Zhou Xian shook his head and said calmly, like this kind of shady forces, each and every one of them are selfish and it's impossible for them to sincerely surrender. Only benefits will drive them to surrender. In other words, these people from the dark forces, none of them could be trusted by the upper echelons of the dark forces. Let them enter the Nirvana realm to complete the mission. Other than the so-called Lord who had something to blackmail them with, there was no one else. These people were all inflicted with a forbidden spell. Once they mentioned anything about the Lord from the dark forces, they would die miserably. In other words, whether that person was the Lord, Yiqing Luo couldn't get any confirmation from the black-robed man. She also couldn't get any useful information from the black-robed man. Yiqing Luo indifferently straightened her waist. Since you can't get any answers, then just kill them to save time. Saying that, she held the profound heart jade and turned back to the huge beast to start fusing with it. That black-robed man was trembling in fear as he immediately shook his head and begged for mercy. I can't answer this question, but I have other information that can exchange my life. Yiqing Luo stopped her footsteps in interest. Turning back, she saw the black-robed man looking at Zhou Xian with a face full of fear. Her smile deepened as she knew the reason why the black-robed man was so obedient was because Zhou Xian was standing beside her. To tell the truth, this feeling of borrowing the tiger's might was actually quite good. The black-robed man trembled and said, the dark forces seem to want to return to the Nirvana realm. The people who have come to the Nirvana realm have already taken up 1/3 of the dark forces. Yiqing Luo frowned as she looked at Zhou Xian. As expected, Zhou Xian's expression turned grave. It seemed like he did not receive the news that the dark forces had come to the Nirvana realm. 1/3 of the dark forces had arrived. As the number 1 evil palace, the Imperial Palace didn't receive any news? The dark forces had infiltrated the Nirvana realm too stealthily. Or could it be that the Imperial Palace's investigation level had also been infiltrated by the dark forces? Seeing that the two of them were deep in thought, the black-robed man thought that there was a chance and continued, there are about 1,000 people who have been infected by the mysterious Yin Qi. I guess it is possible that they are trying to conquer the Nirvana realm and return to it. The black-robed man paused for a moment and hid the way he addressed him. Want to conquer the Nirvana realm? Return to the Nirvana realm? Did he want to take revenge for being expelled from the Nirvana realm? Chapter 893. Yiqing Luo's eyes were deep and serene as she remained silent for some time. Looking at Zhou Xian's grave expression, she slowly shook her head. Her tender red lips curved into a flirtatious smile. Word by word, her pink lips opened and closed. I want to know everything except for your boss. Yiqing Luo crossed her legs and sat right below the huge beast's opened mouth. Zhou Xian stood by the side, his gaze deep and serene as he gazed deeply at her, his expression calm without any ripples. Not far from the two of them was the exit of the sealed land. A corpse with a stunned expression was lying there with its eyes wide open. His eyes were filled with unwillingness as he breathed his last. Right from the start, Yiqing Luo had no intention to let this black-robed man off. He was not a kind person. In her view of the world, there were only three kinds of people: her own people, strangers, and enemies. If it wasn't someone from the dark organization, her brother would not encounter such a thing. If Long Yunzhan regained consciousness and knew that he had done such a thing, what kind of attitude should he use to face this group of brothers? Moreover, her Shiju was also injured because of this. Right now the brothers were at the bottom of the tomb. There was also a corpse king that was eyeing them covetously from the dark. They didn't know if they had encountered any danger. In order to leave the tomb of the Ling King as soon as possible, Yiqing Luo wanted to speed up the speed of fusing with the profound heart jade. She withdrew all kinds of thoughts and closed her eyes. Following Dmo Xian's guidance, Yiqing Luo held the profound heart jade in her palm and brought it to her chest. A bewitching red light slowly wrapped around the profound heart jade. Bit by bit, it merged into Yiqing Luo's body. The red light was bewitching and dazzling. No one discovered that in the instant it fused into the body in the center of the profound jade heart, there was a faintly discernible wisps of black gas flashed. It was fleeting. The first feeling after the profound heart jade fused into her body was that Yiqing Luo had an obvious reaction. A powerful force filled his limbs and bones. After being baptized by the marrow cleansing pill, his meridians actually felt as if they were being filled with profound qi energy. She could feel the continuous flow of profound energy in her body. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged toward him, toward his heart. The child profound heart jade that was originally being nurtured in the profound heart jade suddenly jumped out of his heart. By the side, Dmo Xian stretched out his palm and caught that profound heart jade. Yiqing Luo's special profound jade heart replaced it and embedded itself deep into the heart. Bang! His chest seemed to be hit by an extremely powerful aura. Yiqing Luo's body was enveloped by a red glow as it slowly gave off a dazzling brilliance. Like a blooming rose, the flames were enchanting. A terrifying aura surged and exploded. His hair, which was simply tied up, fluttered in the wind. The ground quaked and the mountains shook. The entire tomb began to collapse due to the overwhelming force. Shake and tremble. That was submission to the strong. Seizing the chance to absorb the azure water ring's power. Fuse with the profound heart jade. Old Man Song's tone was unable to conceal his joy. The azure dew bracelet also gradually began to heat up. One could see how excited Old Man Song was. Hearing what was said, Yiqing Luo began to follow Old Man Song's directions. When she formed a blood contract with the azure dew ring, the power that flowed within her body and was unable to fuse with the profound heart jade, slowly and kindly welcomed it into her own profound heart jade. Perhaps it was because this profound heart jade was hers. That azure dew ring's power circled around Yiqing Luo's heart once before it began to slowly seep into her body. The surrounding air began to distort, stagnate. Chapter 894. Bam bam bam. Strong profound qi kept colliding against the surroundings. The air was stagnant and heavy. Carrying a majestic pressure, it made one's breathing became extremely difficult. Finally, the entire sealed ground collapsed as it couldn't bear the pressure. However, that shattered huge stone, at the instant it crashed into Yiqing Luo, it was rebounded. That was an array barrier. The array barrier which Dmo Xian had set up. Dmo Xian didn't pay any attention to the surrounding situation. The current his gaze was fixated on Yiqing Luo, paying close attention to her. His deep black eyes could only accommodate Yiqing Luo one person. He allowed the broken stones to collapse and the tomb to be destroyed. A ray of light shot into the tomb. Following that, densely packed light rays shone downwards. Following the destruction of the earth and mountains. Rumble, the tomb completely collapsed. A radius of 100 miles was leveled to flat ground. Vice Group Leader Qing Luo. Worried voices shouted out in unison. But they saw Yiqing Luo's eyes shut tightly, apparently in meditation. Qiao Jin immediately made everyone keep quiet. Over 100 people rushed over in unison. But no one opened their mouths to speak. After the tomb collapsed, all the stone walls had already turned into nothingness. If it wasn't for the fact that Baiming Lian City had urgently set up the array barrier at the critical moment, they were afraid. Even if they weren't crushed to death by the huge stones, then they would also be shocked to death by this majestic and powerful energy. 100 of them were all enveloped in Beiming Lian City's array barrier, as they looked at Yiqing Luo with a complicated and shocked expression. Originally they thought that to release such a powerful energy and to flatten the entire tomb, other than the Overlord there was no one else. Of course, there was a possibility that the mastermind behind this had appeared. They were burning with anxiety, worried about Yiqing Luo. But they had not expected that the one who released such a powerful energy was actually Yiqing Luo. Zhou, why are there so many people around? Suddenly, a World Link mercenary's voice was trembling slightly. This sentence made everyone's gaze shift away from Yiqing Luo. When they looked around, everyone's eyes widened in shock. They saw the entire King Ling's tomb was surrounded by at least 2,000 to 3,000 people, a black mass. They were at least 50 meters away from the tomb. The entire tomb was surrounded by 3 layers of guards. Judging from their uniform, there were at least a few hundred people from different forces gathered here. What was going on? Why were there so many people outside the tomb for no apparent reason? Mercenary group? Someone has indeed barged into the tomb of the Ling King. Could it be that the seal on the divine artifact was broken by these kids? Let's see which one of them has a divine artifact. What are you looking at? Just kill him and the divine artifact will come out. Everyone was talking at once, discussing spiritedly. The group of people in the world group were all stunned when they heard that. What divine artifact? What seal? What exactly was the purpose of the profound practitioners of these powers coming here? Just as the mercenaries were looking at each other in confusion, a strange light flashed across their faces. The earth shook and the mountains shook again. Following that, Yiqing Luo, who was originally sitting cross-legged, suddenly floated up into mid-air. A ball of flame-like light enveloped her whole body. Boom, boom, boom. Within 100 miles of her surroundings, the profound qi instantly exploded as though it was a sea of fire. The surrounding thousands of cultivators were all injured by this profound qi. Those who reacted quickly opened up a barrier to defend. Those who were slow to react were directly sent flying by the profound qi. Chapter 895. Yiqing Luo slowly opened her eyes. The bewitching red glow was like a sharp blade as it shot out. Dressed in black, the cherry blossoms on her sleeves swayed along with the wind. Like a ball of flame it was burning. She retracted her gaze as she gazed at her surroundings. Like a high and mighty queen, looking disdainfully at all living beings in the heavens. She had advanced. More accurately, she had broken through. At the 4th stage of the profound realm, after fusing with his incomparably special profound jade heart, the speed at which he absorbed profound energy as well as the speed at which he cultivated was 100 times faster than before. Adding on to the blood-packed God Relic, sharing energy with the God Relic, she had directly leaped a profound grade. Successfully advanced to Earth Profound 4th grade realm. He could be called as a high-leveled cultivator. Earth Profound grade. In the entire West continent, there were no more than 500 people who could name this name. Earth Profound grade and above could be called as high-leveled cultivators. Like Yiqing Luo, who was merely 15 years old, had already become an Earth Profound 4th grade high-leveled cultivator. Even in the entire Nirvana realm she was probably the number 1. Advanced. Vice Group Leader Advanced. I can't tell Vice Group Leader's profound grade, such a powerful strength. Surely she's already in Earth Profound grade? She's absolutely above Earth Profound grade. Heavens! You know, before today our Vice Group Leader was only in Mystic Profound grade. That's too abnormal. Vice Group Leader is simply the most abnormal among the abnormal. The youngsters in the World Group were about to kneel down in front of Yiqing Luo. One must know that when Yiqing Luo first joined Devil Class, she was only in Yellow Profound grade. Later on she leaped to Mystic Profound grade. Now she was immediately promoted to Earth Profound grade. Other people had to spend over 10 years or even their entire lives to not be able to cross the Profound grade. Yiqing Luo only spent less than 2 months' time. That was too exciting. Over at Death God Mercenary Group, when they saw Yiqing Luo floating in midair, they couldn't help but go into a daze. At this moment no one could remain calm. It was too unbelievable. Yi Fengyu's face turned green and white. Nangong Firen's eyes widened in disbelief as he felt a sense of loss. The distance between him and Yiqing Luo had once again. And the surrounding thousands of people were boiling. The powers that had come here naturally included the powers of the four great clans. Yuchi family's patriarch recognized Yiqing Luo at one glance as he immediately blurted out, Isn't she Three Springs sect's young matriarch Yiqing Luo? How could this be? The Yuchi patriarch remembered it very clearly. 1 month ago he even brought a large group of Yuchi family's guards to the old residence in an attempt to bring Yiqing Luo away. The Yiqing Luo at that time, the profound rank couldn't exceed the mystic profound rank 5. It had only been a month. Patriarch Yuchi's complexion instantly turned pale, as though he had seen a monster as he stared at Yiqing Luo. As though he was trying to find a way to deny that this imposing young lady in front of him was not the Yiqing Luo that he knew. The moment Patriarch Yuchi's words left his mouth, the surrounding forces flared up. Who didn't know the name of the young lord of the Three Springs sect? That was the infamous 7th young mistress. But, where's the so-called trash? How was he trash? All of them were discussing fervently as thousands of people had different expressions on their faces. The gazes which they shot towards Yiqing Luo were filled with various emotions. He was the young lord of the Three Springs sect. At the age of 15 she had already stepped into the earth profound realm. Moreover, he was famous for being a wastrel. It was simply too shocking. Everyone rubbed their eyes as they couldn't believe their own eyes. However, no matter how they looked, no matter how they stared, that black-robed lady who was suspended in mid-air, with a devastatingly beautiful countenance, was the young matriarch of the Three Springs sect He family's trash 7th Mississippi. Chapter 896. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes seemed to bear all the splendor between heaven and earth. The smile on her lips was enchanting, and coupled with the imposing manner she was giving off, her entire personality was exceptionally captivating. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about other people's discussions. Her line of sight was fixed on a figure not far away, hidden in the dark. Her long and narrow eyes squinted dangerously as she smiled and frowned, looking extremely flirtatious. That glass-like eyes were overflowing with brilliant colors, as though the stars in the sky, dazzling. Vice Group Leader. The World Group's mercenaries looked up at Yiqing Luo, as their eyes were filled with envy. Yiqing Luo slowly lowered her eyelids as her vision swept past everyone, as her pink lips curled into a faint arc. As though she was consoling them, making them feel at ease. Finally, her gaze was fixed on a certain spot. It was Xianxia. Xiaoyi's face was drained of blood as she leaned into Qiao Jin's arms unconsciously. There was an extremely frail-looking Shiju by the side, as it raised its huge leopard head, as its bronze bell-sized eyes stared at her in a daze. Several times it wanted to stand up and stand by her side. But it didn't seem to have any energy, as it could only stare at her in a daze. Yiqing Luo's chest was in pain as her eyes overflowed with a vicious look. When she raised her eyes again, it congealed at a certain spot as her voice was extremely chilly. Shangguan Lu Li, today's enmity, Yiqing Luo, will repay you 100-folds in the future. The two people who were hiding in the shadows saw that their concealment had been discovered and couldn't be bothered to hide anymore. They saw a black-robed man pinching Shangguan Lu Li's arm as he walked out from the shadows. Shangguan Lu Li had no signs of fear. There were so many people around, why would she be afraid of Yiqing Luo? So what if she was in Earth Profound Realm? She was still no match for her. Shangguan Lu Li sneered. Another day? Do you still have another day? Simply ridiculous. Even if she detected that she was hiding in the shadows, she didn't kill her directly. What vicious words, that she would take revenge in the future. Did she really think that she had advanced to Earth Profound Realm so powerful that she could overturn the heavens? Shangguan Lu Li scoffed. Yiqing Luo's gaze was chilly as her lips curled into an icy arc. Really? That smile was like an azura from hell, extremely terrifying. Shangguan Lu Li shivered for no reason. However, he stubbornly refused to admit defeat. Could it be that you want to kill me in front of everyone? I'm the 5th daughter of the Shangguan clan. How dare you kill me? The Shangguan clan won't let you off. I won't kill you, at least not now. Yiqing Luo sneered as she said it word by word. You. Shangguan Lu Li was stunned. She could tell that Yiqing Luo really had no intention to kill her now. If Yiqing Luo wanted to kill her, even if the surrounding people were all from the Shangguan family, Yiqing Luo wouldn't hesitate at all. Shangguan Lu Li frowned, suddenly not understanding what tricks Yiqing Luo was playing. Doesn't the academy have an inter-class competition? Didn't you issue a challenge to the devil class? How about I add another bet? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a devilish smile. Shangguan Liuli's brows furrowed even more, and she subconsciously looked at the black-robed man beside her. After a silent exchange, Shangguan Liuli then looked at Yiqing Luo. What? If the devil class wins the championship, I want your profound jade heart as well as your tendons and meridians. Yiqing Luo's voice was like frost. Her tone was calm as though she was having a casual chat. Conversely, I will hand over my profound jade heart as well as my tendons and meridians. When she said that, not only was Shangguan Liuli stunned. Even the surrounding forces were stunned. Wasn't this bet a little too big? Using her profound jade heart and tendons as the bet that was also betting her entire life. Chapter 897. You. Shangguan Liuli bit her lower lip tightly. Her eyes were covered with gold powder, looking extremely comical. You're crazy. Yiqing Luo was absolutely crazy. Otherwise, why would she make such a suggestion? Anyone with eyes could tell that devil class would not be able to obtain the final victory in the inter-class competition. One must know that the inter-class competition was a competition between a class and a team. Even if Yiqing Luo was in the Earth Profound grade and was ranked top 10 in the Heavenly Academy's top exponent ranking, it was impossible for her to defeat the other classes. Moreover, even if the low, medium and high class too really lost to Yiqing Luo alone, the Academy would absolutely not let a waste class win the championship. They would definitely send out the students from the class of gods. Yiqing Luo was a top exponent. Her ability was on par with the students from the class of gods. But there was only one Yiqing Luo in the devil class. And in the class of gods, every student's profound grade was above Yiqing Luo. Win the championship? How could that be possible? Shangguan Liuli couldn't understand where Yiqing Luo got her confidence from, to think that devil class could win the championship? And he even bet his entire life on this inter-class competition? In front of thousands of cultivators and various forces, she made this bet. Which meant that once this bet was established, the bet must be completed. Otherwise, these forces wouldn't have stood by idly. Why, you don't dare. Yiqing Luo curled her lips coldly. Her tone was filled with disdain and contempt. Shangguan Liuli's malevolent face flushed red. Why wouldn't I dare? Alright, let's bet. As long as devil class wins the championship, I will destroy my own profound jade heart and meridians. Just as she finished her words, Shangguan Liuli covered her mouth fiercely, feeling extremely annoyed. How could she be agitated by Yiqing Luo? He actually agreed to this ridiculous wager. But the words had already been said out in front of everyone. There was no room for regrets. Moreover, before she could regain her senses, a drop of crystal-clear blood shot out from Yiqing Luo's fingertip, directly falling onto Shangguan Liuli's forehead. In a split second it merged into her body. Shangguan Liuli's face turned steely green as she stretched out her hand to wipe her forehead. What did you do to me? What are you doing? Don't worry, it's just a curse. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she sneered coldly. This is to prevent the both of us from reneging on the bet, isn't it? Shangguan Liuli's face turned pale and her body trembled. She secretly thought that Yiqing Zhen was too ruthless. He was so ruthless to himself, not to mention to others. He swore on his heart's blood. It was a curse cast using the blood of his heart. Once the wager was established, if one of the parties went back on their word, then that party would be forced to carry out the wager according to the wager. For example, the bet between Yiqing Luo and Shangguan Liuli in order to destroy the profound heart jade had already broken all the tendons in her limbs. Then after the curse was established, Yiqing Luo or Shangguan Liuli, whichever side lost the bet, wasn't willing to destroy their own profound jade heart and meridians. This curse would be forcefully performed. Shangguan Liuli was still remorseful and frightened. The black-robed man beside her tightened his grip on her wrist. Shangguan Liuli's face paled, and she immediately looked at the black-robed man respectfully. Shangguan Liuli's eyes lit up as if they had communicated with each other, revealing a joyful expression. What fear! What vexation and worry! She didn't need these emotions. Shangguan Liuli raised her head as she complacently looked at the young lady who was suspended in midair. Her eyes were gloomy and ruthless as she suddenly laughed out loud. That's right, she raised her voice. He had increased the volume of his voice by several times. Chapter 898. God Relic? That one sentence stirred up 10,000 waves. The various powerhouses' original mood of watching a show was instantly swept away. Everyone's vision congealed onto Yiqing Luo. God relic was on her? Despicable. Shangguan Lioli. What rubbish are you sprouting? How would Qing Luo have any god relic on her? Don't think that you can escape just because everyone's attention is focused on us. The World Mercenary Group's mercenaries' expressions turned especially ugly. They immediately opened their mouths to defend Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo didn't say a word. She stared coldly at Shangguan Lioli, who had a smug look on her face. In the end, her gaze was fixed on the black-robed man beside her. King Ling's tomb had been blown up and various forces had gathered around. It must be because the dark forces had released the God Relic's seal, causing the God Relic's aura to leak out, attracting various forces and a large number of cultivators to get their hands on this God Relic. After all, it was an ancient God Relic from thousands of years ago. There were too many cultivators who wanted to get it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many cultivators gathered around here. Whereas Shangguan Lioli's words should be instructed by that black-robed man, trying to make use of the surrounding forces to stop her from capturing them? It seemed that this so-called His Lordship was still somewhat afraid of her. The surrounding forces had obviously pointed the spearhead towards Yiqing Luo. The complacent smile on Shangguan Lioli's face became even more radiant. The God Relic is on Yiqing Luo. I can testify on my identity as Shangguan family's fifth Missy. If there's any falsehood in my words, I'm willing to bear all the consequences. The other forces' eyes instantly shone. They came all the way to King Ling's tomb. Wasn't it all for this God Relic? Now the God Relic was in the hands of a young lass. So what if she was an earth-profound expert? How could one person fight against so many of them? The various forces' men started to stir as they already had the intention to pounce towards Yiqing Luo. The World Group's mercenaries started to gather vigilantly, with Zhou Xian and Yiqing Luo, who was floating in midair, as the center. They formed a tight circle as they stared vigilantly at those surrounding forces. From those forces' cultivators' eyes, the mercenaries could clearly see the gleam in their eyes, as though they were looking at their prey. The mercenaries absolutely believed it. So long as one power made the first move, then the other thousands of profounders would charge over without the slightest hesitation. Shangguan Lioli let out a ferocious laugh as her plan worked. She threw a glance at the Shangguan clan's men. The leader of the Shangguan clan's forces was coincidentally the Shangguan third young master, Shangguan Fangyi. When he saw Shangguan Lioli, his face was filled with astonishment. He could not believe that his big-breasted, brainless sister would actually be so daring. Not afraid of Yiqing Luo's powerful pressure in front of everyone? Who was the person in the black robe beside Shangguan Lioli? The siblings looked at each other. Shangguan Fangyi had a lot of questions he wanted to ask, but he couldn't leave the Shangguan clan's territory. If he were to make a move, he would definitely be the first to make a move. Shangguan Lioli looked towards his direction as she blinked her eyes, as she faintly touched her fingers. Following that, her vision shot towards Yiqing Luo's direction. She no longer looked at Shangguan Fangyi. Instead, her arm was forcefully pulled by the black-robed man, as a deep and cold hoarse voice was heard from under the black robe. Don't have any ideas. Since we've already confirmed that Yiqing Luo has left the Ling King's tomb, then let's leave now. After saying that, the two figures in the air only had enough time to see two afterimages, and they instantly disappeared. The other forces looked at each other in dismay. There were a few forces who wanted to chase after the direction which the two figures had left towards. But they were all very clear. Chapter 899. Whoever subdued Yiqing Luo first would have a greater chance of obtaining the divine relic. No one was willing to miss the chance to get a divine artifact. Moreover, the fifth Miss Shangguan had already brought out the Shangguan family to testify. That also meant that what fifth Miss Shangguan said was absolutely true. The Shangguan family didn't do anything either, did they? The various factions allowed Shangguan Lioli and the black-robed man to leave. Qiao Jin lowered his head and looked at the pale-faced Yan Xiaoyi in his arms as he clenched his teeth tightly and used the mercenary group badge to transmit his voice. Qing Luo, are you really going to let Shangguan Lioli off so easily? Are you not going to take revenge for Xiaoyi? Aren't you going to avenge Shijue? The mercenaries were puzzled. Based on Yiqing Luo's current ability, so what if she killed Shangguan Lioli in front of so many people? Shangguan Lioli had colluded with the dark forces and injured their people. Death was a matter of course. Why did he have to spend so much effort to increase the bet with Shangguan Liuli? How could he let Shangguan Liuli leave so easily? Qiao Jin hugged Yan Xiaoyi's shoulders tightly. His usually mischievous eyes were currently surging with thick fury, his eyes filled with silence. Looking at Yan Xiaoyi in his arms, Qiao Jin felt a dull pain in his heart. He could not blame Long Yunzhan. Everything was because Shangguan Liuli controlled Long Yunzhan, which caused Yan Xiaoyi to be injured. Thinking of this, Qiao Jin even had the thought of tearing Shangguan Liuli into pieces. However, Yiqing Luo had no intention to take revenge. Could it be that Yiqing Luo didn't want to take revenge, and didn't want those who hurt her brothers to pay a painful price? Who said I was going to let Shangguan Liuli off? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes dangerously as her lips curled into a cold arc. Sometimes. The real revenge is not to kill the other party, but to destroy the other party viciously, making the other party unable to live. The last 8 words, Yiqing Luo enunciated them word by word, as though they were squeezed out from the gaps between her teeth. In order to deal with her, Shangguan Liuli cooperated with the dark forces. Hurt her companions, hurt her brothers. Most importantly, Shangguan Liuli should not joke around with the brotherhood between them. He shouldn't have controlled Long Yunzhan and infected him with the profound yin qi just to watch a good show. Qiao Jin and the other mercenaries were stunned. When he caught a glimpse of Yiqing Luo's sinister murderous intent, his heart suddenly lit up. That's right, Yiqing Luo wasn't some cowardly person. Moreover, she was more protective than anyone else. Shangguan Liuli had crossed her bottom line. How could she let Shangguan Liuli off? Would killing Shangguan Liuli be enough to vent his anger? No, they wanted to see Shangguan Liuli struggling on the edge of life and death, unable to live or die. What did Shangguan Liuli care about the most? It was her status, her reputation, her everything. The reason why she was so arrogant and willful was because of the princess syndrome. Wasn't it because her own talent was extremely high, her mother knew how to fight for favor, and she had Shangguan Fangyi to match? In that case, what would happen to Shangguan Liuli after he removed all of her support bit by bit? He wanted to die in despair, but he couldn't die no matter what. Only endless despair accompanied her for the rest of her life. Qiao Jin and the others finally understood why Yiqing Luo made that bet with Shangguan Liuli. The so-called revenge, how could it be as simple as killing the other party? Jinzi, bring the brothers back to the old residence first. Xiao Yi's poison must be detoxified as soon as possible. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as a glint flashed past, appearing unfathomable. Chapter 900. The mercenaries' expressions changed slightly. Once again they were conquered by Yiqing Luo. This move was simply too despicable. Not taking any action, just loitering around Shangguan Liuli? Didn't that mean that he wanted Shangguan Liuli to live in fear day after day? Just this unknown fear was enough to crush Shangguan Liuli's inner heart. This indeed made one feel much more carefree than killing Shangguan Liuli. There are at least 3,000 people around and there are quite a number of cultivators rushing over from afar. If we leave, how would those people let you off? After such a commotion, Qiao Jin's mind cleared up quite a bit. Although he wanted to carry Yan Xiaoyi back to the old residence, to let God Thief take a good look at her. But how could he possibly leave Yiqing Luo to face these thousands of people? Their motive is the God Relic. If they can't find the God Relic, naturally there's nothing they can do. Yiqing Luo didn't seem to care about those cultivators as she replied calmly. Qiao Jin's brows creased tightly. These various powerhouses obviously wouldn't let them off so easily. They would disperse if they couldn't find the God Relic? For their own ambitions, various powerhouses would rather kill the innocent than to miss any clue regarding the God Relic. Especially when Yiqing Luo had advanced under everyone's watchful eyes. There was a possibility that some people might think that Yiqing Luo had used the God Relic's power to advance. Yiqing Luo's situation was much more difficult than imagined. Don't worry, Xian is here. Yiqing Luo shook her head as her voice was transmitted through the metal, appearing extremely ethereal. She shut her eyes as she slowly descended to the ground from mid-air. Everyone's vision followed Yiqing Luo's movements. As long as Yiqing Luo showed any signs of acting blindly without thinking, they would immediately swarm up to kill them. After Yiqing Luo's legs landed on the ground, her charming eyes looked at Qiao Jin as she spoke seriously. Jinzi, Xiao Yi's poison cannot be dragged on. There's a possibility that she has been poisoned by the Dark Force's special poison powder. If we don't formulate the antidote as soon as possible, Xiao Yi's life will be in danger. Her fingertips caressed gently as she fished out a red brocade bag from the profound phoenix ring and passed it to Xiao Jin. After you return to the old residence, try to make a trip to the academy. Go to the second floor's medicine refining room in the library pavilion and pass this to Ghost Doctor. I implore Master Ghost Doctor to save my companion's life. Given the current situation, she would not be able to leave for a while. She couldn't be sure if what Shangguan Liuli had said before she fled was true. The Ghost Doctor could cure the poison of the purple poppy grass. But if he added in the poison powder specially made by the dark forces, Yiqing Luo wasn't sure if Ghost Doctor would be able to concoct the antidote immediately. Unable to get the name of the poison powder from Shangguan Liuli, he could only place his hopes on the Ghost Doctor. Xiao Jin gripped the red brocade pouch tightly, his fingertips faintly glowing with a pale green. Mu Zifei stepped out from behind the mercenaries. He untied an ID token from his waist and also placed it in Xiao Jin's hand. With this command token, you can freely choose medicinal ingredients from all the medicine shops under the Mu family's banner. Xiao Jin still wanted to say something, but in the end he was defeated by Yiqing Luo's persistence. In the end, both sides took a step back. Xiao Jin and the others brought the 40 mercenaries back to the old mansion to help Yan Xiaoyi detoxify the poison. At the same time, they inquired about the progress of the other mercenary groups on this random mission. In particular, he had to pay close attention to Invincible and the Blood Fiend mercenary group. Another 20 over people went to search for the King Corpse's hiding place. King Ling's tomb was already destroyed and the King Corpse's array was also destroyed. Adding on the fact that he was injured in Dmo Shen's hands. If the current King Corpse wanted to capture him, he didn't need to spend much effort. Chapter 901. After arranging everything, Yiqing Luo shot a glance at Dmo Shen. A huge nine-tailed fox descended from the sky in an instant. 9 furry tails swept down, covering the sky and covering the earth. The hundreds of forces that had surrounded the area were instantly wiped out by this tail. The sudden attack came without any warning. All the forces reacted quickly and started to avoid Little Nine's tail. But when they saw this, when the pure white nine-tailed fox with powerful energy appeared, all the factions were stunned. Nine-tailed sacred beast. Only one person owned it. That was Overlord. The appearance of the pure-colored nine-tailed fox indicated that the Overlord was nearby. Could it be the Overlord was interested in this god relic? The leaders of the various forces were feeling a little uneasy at this moment. If the Overlord was interested in the god relic, even if they fought to the death, they would not be able to get it from the Overlord. Whereas for those few powerhouses who were stationed in Three Springs City, their faces were pale as the gazes they shot at Yiqing Luo were filled with fear. There were rumors that Yiqing Luo and the Overlord had a close relationship. They had announced to the public that they were master and disciple. But anyone could tell that the relationship between Yiqing Luo and the Overlord was beyond that of master and disciple. Most of the profound practitioners from the various forces were filled with suspicions and suspicions. While Yiqing Luo's mercenaries took advantage of the chaos to split up. Other than the nine-tailed fox's attack, all the forces were focused on Yiqing Luo. Naturally, they sensed Yiqing Luo's intention. Just at this moment, a young lady's angry voice was heard from behind. The god relic is with her. She just broke through to the profound grade because of the god relic. The pig-like teammate activated the pig-like teammate's skill again. Although this sharp shout was not deafening, it was still enough to make one's ears tremble. The reliable profound practitioners nearby all heard these words. The god relic was with Yiqing Luo? And Yiqing Luo relied on the god relic to break through to the earth profound grade? What on earth was this god relic? It had such a powerful effect. Immediately, all the forces were fired up as their hearts were filled with excitement. Right. The god relic is with her. I saw her take the divine artifact with my own eyes. This matter has nothing to do with our death god mercenary group. I want to leave. I don't want to be in this place. Why are you looking at me? Yiqing Luo was asking her followers to transfer the divine relic. It's over there. Why aren't you guys chasing after it? Nangong Lin still wanted to scream, but Nangong Firen, who had reacted, covered her mouth and forcefully pulled her behind him. The god-slaying mercenary group had suffered a heavy loss this time. Nearly 40 people entered the tomb, but in the end only 5 of them came out alive. Those elite mercenaries were all dead. They walked out of the Ling King's tomb together with the world group. In the eyes of the various forces, they were on the same side. For Nangong Lin to admit that the god relic was with Yiqing Luo, wasn't it implicating them? Even if she said that it had nothing to do with the Azure group. Would the profound practitioners of those powers believe him? Nangong Firen regretted bringing Nangong Lin along with her today.